Hey, good evening. This week we're going to be doing a cranberry white chocolate cheesecake. Give some credit. The original base recipe for this cheesecake comes from Jennifer Segal. Um, Bear with us. This is being recorded because it will take you overnight to do it because it has to sit for 8 hours in the fridge. However, what we're going to do is we're going to do this film for you and you can take in your leisure and watch it. I hope you try and make it. This is a phenomenal cheesecake. Hope you enjoy it. All right. Do first for this cheesecake is we got to mix up our graham cracker crust. For this, roughly 12 graham crackers, just throw them in your food processor and grind them up. Get them nice powdery consistency. For that, we're then going to add our butter, which is 5 tablespoons unsalted butter. Just melt it down, mix that in. Also 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then it calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. All I'm going to do is just get a small amount in my hand, roughly about that, dump that in. Once we get those together, we're going to mix it in and form our crust. Our oven during all of this, I preheated to 370 degrees because we make the crust, we got it about to set up. Just mix it up, keep just sort of pressing it down to form it into each other. Dry, but you need some moisture into it to hold it. It's as a binder. A lot of times I'll just give up and use my hands, but being that everybody's watching, I think I'll use a spatula to make you all happy. And when we think we got a good consistency, just sort of push it down, and you'll see if it's mixed good, it'll start sticking together like that. That's what we want. Now that we got it mixed, we're going to set it to the side. For this recipe, we're using a springform pan. This is a trick that's very important. Springform pans will leak around the bottom, so you want to make sure you seal them up. Take 2 pieces of your heavy-duty aluminum foil. Make sure you put it shiny side in so you're not reflecting the heat away from everything. Set your pan on it. We're just going to take the foil up, and we're going to seal this without we're not putting it into the pan, we're bringing it up, fold it back over. And this is going to be to keep the water from our steam bath later from leaking in. What I've taken the liberty of doing is I've gotten this hot water going on the stove, and that's been sitting there because when we cook the cheesecake, to keep it from burning, we want it sitting inside that water in a pan in the oven. And that'll keep it to allow it to cook without burning. Just go right around and make sure we got it nice and good. Also, I've got my white chocolate chips here going on a double boiler, so we're going to mix those up, our sauce for tomorrow, while we have the crust going. So now that we got that line, we're just going to take and sprinkle these in here, spread them around. You won't need all of it. You should end up with some left over. This recipe for the crust actually will probably fill all the way up the side of the pan if we want it. I don't like, for this particular one, I don't want that graham cracker all the way up the side because we're going to decorate this one. So we just push it into place, get it nice and even around in there, and pack it down a little so it sits into the bottom, forms a nice base for our cheesecake. I try and just get the sides to look fairly even. I don't want them sticking too high up, but I also don't want them to disappear. I want everything nice and level in here. So I'm going to make a difference in how it looks at the end. And with that, it looks pretty smooth in there. It looks pretty even. Dust our hands off. Once we get that all packed like so, this is going in the oven at 375 degrees. We just want to put it in on the middle rack for about 10 minutes to allow it a chance to set up. Like I said, we'll end up with some left over. And while that's going, like I said, I took the liberty I've already getting a double boiler going here. So I'm going to turn my heat back down on here to a lower temperature. In the recipe that I sent out last week, which is online, I do have it calls for clarified butter and warm milk. I already pre-warmed this milk and then just let it sit at room temperature. Our chips calls for about a cup. You go cup, cup and a half. All you're going to do is smush them down. We're just making a nice consistency to make a sauce for to go over and decorate the cheesecake tomorrow when it's done. I warm my milk just because when you're doing white chocolate especially, it has a tendency to set up when you put cold into it. So I pre-warmed everything. We're just going to take a little bit of our clarified butter. Roughly, I would say it's going to take maybe about 2-3 tablespoons. We're just going to pour some of that in there. We're not turning this into really liquidy stuff. We just want it about halfway between being a liquid and being a hard chocolate. So we're only going to add a little bit of milk and a little bit of the butter. I'm going to whip that all up in there. Keep it on the heat while you do this and get it nice and consistent. Keeping it on the heat will allow it not to thicken too much. And I'll give you an idea of what your consistency is going to be like. If you want to know when it's cooling, what it's going to be like, just pull your whisk out a little and you can see it's starting to see how it's hanging there. That's about what we want because that's going to hang down the sides of our cake and help hold some of our decoration. Now for tomorrow, we're going to end up putting this into just a regular squeeze bottle. And this is where I always get the mess. Carefully, whatever you do when you're doing chocolate, don't get water into it. It will set it up and ruin what you've been working on. Likewise, in the recipe, you'll notice I call for Ghirardelli white chocolate. I've worked with many white chocolates, and this is the best one I've ever found. Most of them have a waxy texture and taste. This one just tastes delicious. So when you find something good, stick with it. Just carefully get it into that funnel. Let it work its way through. And we're not going to need this, though, until tomorrow. But by doing this, we can put it into a double boiler, warm it back up tomorrow, and it's ready to go. Every now and then, if you notice your liquid is going really slow, just lift up your funnel there and let the air out. It tends to be building a little pressure when it does that. And with that, let's get the rest of it in there. Work its way through. There is no set amount of this that you need. The more you have, the better, because then it's better to have a little extra than to run out and be short. So I tend to make way more than I actually need. Now I'm just patting it like that just to try and get the last of it to work its way through. And wipe off any of our spillage. We're going to cap that up. And that'll be ready for tomorrow. So I can put that in the fridge, and then tomorrow when I need it, we'll just take and throw it in a double boiler and warm it back up. And yes, it is sticky. Let's take a look now. See how this is looking. Give it a couple minutes while I get other things together. If I clarified butter out, we'll need that later again. Milk, don't really have a use for. You can do whatever, make yourself coffee with it, throw it away, whatever you decide. Now this pan of water back here is what I was talking about, keeping nice and hot, because when we go to build this, we're going to set our cheesecake right into it. And that's probably about done. So I'm going to turn my oven back down to 325 and pull out our crust and let it cool down. While that cools, we'll take a little break and be ready to go in a few minutes. So we're back now. Our crust has already come out of the oven. It's cooling right now. What we're going to do is we want to work with fresh cranberries. Always pick through, make sure you don't have any you don't like. I'm not happy with that one, so it'll go. I say about a cup of cranberries is what I'm going to add. You can add a little more, use a little less. Biggest thing, use fresh, don't use canned. And be careful, because these things will want to roll on you. They're when you first start. So just take your time, get a couple cups. I'm going to chop them up somewhat coarse. We don't want them too big. Definitely want fresh. Every seems to think it's sour fruit or berry. They're not, unless you're making them into a cranberry relish where you're adding some stuff like orange rind to it. That's what makes them sour. What we're going to do in this recipe is make them almost like a cherry in flavor. They're very sweet, very tasty, and delicious. And don't forget, save the bog dolphins. There's a meme going around on Facebook right now, which is hilarious, about they're harvesting and killing off bog dolphins. There are no such thing. They do not harvest them with any dolphins. They grow in a bog wild, and when they float on the top of the bog, they go and harvest them because they're fresh, they're ready, they're ripe. And you'll see these bogs up there in the main area, just floating on top. Like I said, just going to chop them up nice and coarse. Once we get them started, you'll see they'll sit a little bit better in place for us. As I say that and launch them across the counter. Just remember, keep your knife slicing, it'll make it easier. Don't just go up and down, let it slide a little, it'll cut better. Have less fight with them jumping around. All of these, the white chocolate, you can modify and add a little more, a little less, do it to your personal taste. Just remember, if you're adding more, it will change your liquid content, so keep that in mind. Sometimes you have to take a little bit of liquid away because you're adding more fruit, which is going to produce a liquid. In this case, I found with this amount, I did not have to adjust the recipe any, so I'm staying with that amount. Like I said, we want them coarse like that. A couple more that are a little bigger than I want. I don't want halves. I want at least down to an eighth of a cranberry. So look for those big ones and get them down. But that looks right now. It's about the consistency I like. So we're going to put them into our bowl. To save time, we're also going to add our chips right into it. Like I said, I'm using the Ghirardelli. I call for about a cup. What I did is basically the same amount of cranberries is what I'm putting in white chocolate. Because I want them to complement it. I want one overpowering the other. We're going to set that to the side now because we need one more ingredient pre-done. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our lemon here. Got a little sour cream on it when I was prepping stuff. We're going to take our 4-way and we're going to take the fine side. And what we want to do is we're going to peel off that peel. We did this a couple weeks ago on our one recipe. And this is our flavoring going into the cheesecake, and this is what gives it that really nice tart taste to a cheesecake. Try not to get down past the yellow. We want just yellow, not the white. That white will turn it bitter. Just take your time. Move it around a lot. Pay attention to where you're at, what you're taking off. Likewise, we're going to use the juice from this lemon too, so nothing goes to waste. And I think we got most of that. Should give us right about 1 teaspoon, and that's what we want. Once again, we're going to throw that in right with our cranberries and our chocolate chips. I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half so I have it ready for later. Once again, I'm going to put a little X in it. That also, like I said before, will help you get the juice out easier. I'm going to get rid of this and get ready for the main part. For this part coming up, everything's going to go rather quickly. What we want to do, we're going to get our mixer out here. We want the paddle blade. For this one, I chose the one that's got a scraper built in because it'll make life easier on this one. Get it set up. While this is going, I'm going to pull a pan over. I'll show you everything I'm doing. I want to put in about a cup to a cup and a half of cranberries right into it. That's going to be our sauce for tomorrow. To that, I want to add about a cup of sugar. And that's what's going to sweeten it up. And then I just use cranberry juice. You can use any brand. I prefer Ocean Spray. And even though I say about a cup, what I want is about an equal amount of sugar, cranberries, and salt and juice. That I'll put on my burner, and I'm just going to put that on. I'm going to bring it to a boil to start. As soon as it starts to boil, I'm setting it all the way down to the lowest setting because I don't want to cook them. I just want them to start, and you'll hear them popping. That's normal. It's going to pop the skin. It's going to start extracting the pectin into it, which will help thicken everything up and make it really nice. So for this part, it's going to go fast. We've already got our crust done. Everything's ready to go. We set our oven down to 325 this time. We've got our hot water going. In the bowl, what we want is, first off, we want our cream cheese. That'd be 4 8-ounce cream cheese. Bring them up to room temperature. I've had these sitting out, waiting to go in. And get them in there. You can hear the water already start, or the stuff already boiling. So now I will take that all the way to its lowest setting. Because I just want that to sit back there for about 20 to 30 minutes. So what we want now is I have 4 tablespoons of flour here. And I have my egg here. I take the liberty, I pre-do them this way, that way, because I can just pour a little at a time, one at a time in. I've measured everything out, ready to go. For this, we want to add first our cream cheese, our sugar, and our flour together. For our sugar on this, we're going to be doing 2 cups. I have that ready here. And what we'll do is we're going to bring this up, set it, just get it going on its lowest setting to start. Right off the bat, I'm going to pour my flour into, because it'll take the longest to incorporate. And then 2 cups of sugar. We're going to beat that on a medium speed for about a minute, just to get it smooth. And you can see it's already turning smooth. Everything's mixing. I will tend to scrape the side at least once, just to make sure I don't have any flour or sugar sitting on the edge of the bowl. Now turn it back on. Adding to that, I have 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Pour that right in. I know I wrote in the recipe to put the lemon zest next, but I'm going to hold off on that because I want to put it in with the fruit and just to save a step. We have our lemon squeezed. Using a strainer or colander, something small, just to catch seeds. We don't want seeds in it. We'll squeeze the juice in from that. See the seeds just hanging there. The other reason I do the eggs in advance is everybody knows you're sitting there, you're cracking your eggs, you see a piece of shell go flying. By cracking them in advance, just before I need them, I don't have to worry about that. If a piece of shell gets in there, I've already seen it, it's already taken care of. Now, I put that in, so I'm going to turn it back on. Got an 1/8 or 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. That goes in at this point. We're going to let that run for a minute on medium. And then we get to the fun part. This is why I pre-did the eggs. We're going to try and drop 1 egg at a time in. We'll wait till that starts mixing and gets a good jump on it. We'll put the next one. Same thing. We're going to repeat this till we go through all 6 eggs. And what we want is we want to see that yolk break and see it start mixing in. This whole recipe itself only takes about 15 minutes to put together. It's everything working up to it and the baking time and then letting it sit overnight. It's a very quick recipe otherwise. We have all our eggs in. Once we see those are pretty much mixed in, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of sour cream. That looks pretty well mixed. Let me drop my bowl down. We're going to scrape the sides. Make sure nothing's gathered up on there. Keep our consistency nice and even. Press it back onto the tines. Raise her back up. And give her another quick blast in there. Like I said, the whole mixing of this only takes about 6 minutes. And that looks good, nice and creamy. So we can drop that down. Take our paddle out. I'm not going to scrape the paddle. I'm just going to knock it because you'll see stuff like that on the center. I don't want to put that big clump in there. I want everything to stay nice and consistent. Clean up some of our mess there. We're going to take our lemon, our cranberry, and our chocolate now. Just going to all pour that in there. Just by hand, fold it in to get everything nice and even. Don't want a big chunk of it in one spot and not in another. But do it gently and make sure it's good and even. I don't see any big clumps sticking together anymore, so we should be good. that sitting there. Now comes the part where we got to be a little patient and careful. This is what I was talking about before. We're going to take our springform pan, set it right in there. We wrapped it with the foil carefully so we don't break up that crust in the bottom. I'll pour this in. I'm using a 10-inch pan, which is actually about 9 3/4 of an inch, despite what they say. And this recipe will fill it just perfectly. I'll just smooth that a little bit around. Make sure I got all the good stuff. Now, we're going to take this water that we had been keeping nice and warm, carefully pour it in the sides. I'm making a mess here, but that's okay. Let's put a towel down. You want this to come to about 1/2 to 2/3 of the way up that springform pan. If you have a tea kettle, you can just fill it with water and bring it up the temperature and have it ready. You can see that's coming up. And it's about halfway. So we're ready with that to put that in the oven. Like I said, we preheated our oven. I got it at 325. I'm going to set it on the middle rack. Be careful not to burn yourself. Don't spill that hot water on yourself. During the course of cooking, if you happen to open it and notice it looks uneven, like one side's warmer than the other, part will cook quicker. That's normal. There's hot spots in ovens. That's just part of the thing. Just turn your pan and you'll be good. As you can see now, if you come look at these cranberries, they've all started popping. They're getting a nice color to them. Nice and sweet. With that, we can take a break now. This cake's going to take about 2.5 hours in the oven. We're going to cook it till it starts to get a brown on the top. The center of it should look like it's still a little bit liquid, even though it's not, just as long as it's nice and easy coming around the sides with a brown color. So with that, take a break, go watch your show, set your timer, and enjoy the afternoon. So I think I told you by mistake 2.5 hours. I wasn't thinking. It's 1.5 hours to 1:45 in the oven. This is done now. I'm going to kill my oven. We'll turn that off. We'll take a look here, and you'll see a nice golden brown top to that. We're going to carefully remove it from the oven. Don't get yourself with the water. And put that up to the top to let it start cooling. This has now got to sit till tomorrow about 8 hours. Let this pan sit 45 minutes till the water comes down in temperature. And then at that point, you can take the foil, pull it out of the water, take the foil off, and put it in your fridge to cool and sit overnight. With that, we'll be back later to see how it finishes up. So we waited. It's been 8 hours. The cake's been in the oven or the fridge all night. We're ready to decorate and take it out of the pan. So what I've got here is a Lazy Susan. You can buy these at Walmart or Joann's or wherever, any cake decorating store, and a little cardboard to put underneath it. That's just to make life easier. So what we want to do is carefully, well, before I open that, I should take and just go down around the edges of the pan. And we're loosening the cake from the sides. We'll do this beforehand so that when we open it, it doesn't peel everything away. And just go all the way around. It should be ready. Clean that. One of your biggest things, cheesecake and a lot of desserts actually, is keeping the stuff from building up on here. I would just slowly and carefully open the sides. Lift that off. We have us a cheesecake. What we want to do now is we're going to take, you can do this with a long knife or you can do this with just this. This is just a pastry knife. Carefully go around. Easier said than done always. And try and separate it. The last one I did of these slid right off. This one's going to give me problems. We'll just go. Take a little bit of time. Be patient. It'll come off. Just might take a little bit of work sometimes. There we go. Once we get that loose, I'm going to carefully slide that to our cardboard, pull the knife back out. With that, get something to clean that up with. Get some of this mess out of here before it starts drying and setting up. I'm going to try and center this the best we can. Now this is a nice little tool just for decorating. What I've done is here's our white chocolate sauce that we made yesterday. I'm going to shake that up a little. I'm going to start by just making a little pattern across the top. I tend to do just like a check pattern, crosshatch, whichever you would like to call it. If you miss a spot, it's not a big deal. You just come back, go over it. Take it all the way to the edge and let it drip down. We're going to come back and we're going to go the opposite way. Now, nothing has to look absolutely perfect on this. It's all going to be covered with some almonds here in a minute. So once you get your crosshatch, we're just going to go around the edge and get right on the top and let that start dripping down the sides. And we'll go a second time around because I want a little more chocolate dripping. That chocolate that's dripping will set back up somewhat, but that's what's going to hold our almonds on the edge. We got plenty of chocolate left, so if we want a little more, what I do, get some air back in here, shake it down. Let's go the opposite way that we haven't done yet. Like I said, you can't have too much of this. Well, yeah, I guess you could. But this is our main flavor other than the cranberry sauce we're going to put on it and the cranberries that were cooked into it. Last time I had just enough left of this that I couldn't save it. So I took this sauce and mixed it right in with a cup of coffee. That was rather nice. This time I got a little more than that left, so I don't think I'll do that. Put that out of the way. Now we're going to do, and this is where our Lazy Susan comes in. What I have is some sliced almonds. If you like, you can toast them first. I chose not to because I'd rather have the regular plain almond taste to it. I'm just going to get a handful. Bring your hand along the side here. We're just going to catch them as they fall and just press lightly into the sides. Don't press too hard. Chocolate should catch most of those as it comes around. See any spots that seem to be lacking some, go back around and you can always add them. Likewise, we can scrape some of them up. Come back to use. This is the messy part. If you're a germaphobe, you're going to hate doing this part. A couple bald spots there. Get a little more into it. And come back around now that we got them in. Swipe off the excess. That. Now we'll just come on to the top. I'm just going to lightly sprinkle a few. We don't want to cover the whole thing, but we do want to spread out a bit. You can do just about anything you want for the decorating. I thought about the idea of taking some cranberries on it, but I wanted to keep it somewhat simple. You can, rather than doing the almonds, if you like, the other option too is you could just take some white chocolate and shave it on there with a vegetable peeler. Now comes the best part of all of it. I'm going to go in, see how it come out. Like I said before, one of the main things when doing cakes like cheesecake is keep some warm water and a rag handy, because this makes the difference of how it cuts. Keep your thing nice and clean. Come back here. Let's cut another piece off in there. One more cut. Slide our knife out with that. This time, I just have to wipe that. Come under it nice and easily. Look at that. Beautiful. Slide that back a little. And for the final part of serving it, we're going to take a little of our cranberry sauce that we made yesterday. This is nice and sweet. It should remind you of a nice tart cherry, not a cranberry as much. There's no put ladle there. And that is our white chocolate cranberry cheesecake. Hope you enjoy it and enjoy your holidays.